If I talk this loud, can you hear me in the back? Oh, yeah. Dave? Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Jim. It's a real honor to speak here today. I'm going to give a little background of myself, just so you understand a little bit more context of the story. As Jim said, Nikki is right there, married 14 years. We're both lifelong Catholics. My life has been filled with many chapters. I grew up in a military family, which means we bounced around a lot, mostly in the Midwest and the East Coast. I actually lived in Indianapolis 4th through 6th grade, went to St. Jude's on the south side, and then I graduated high school in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I actually went to 3 high schools and graduated in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then I played college basketball. And I've played at North Carolina, Greensboro. And then after I finished up playing college basketball, I went to Texas, where I coached for a couple of years at a junior college and got my MBA. And then I came back to Indianapolis because my parents, after my dad retired from the Navy, they came to Indianapolis because it was the greatest city in the world, and they wanted to come here. And that's when we came back, and I rejoined my family there. In my most recent career, I was with a big multinational company as a sales executive, and I worked there for 9 years. There was a French-based, Paris, France-based company. And I worked there for 9 years, and as any sales professionals in the room know, that those first few years were brutal. It was really difficult, but I found a pace, I found my stride, and towards the end, for 5 straight years, I won 5 International Sales Incentive Awards. And it's important, I tell you that not to brag, but it's because it has to do with our story of travel. During those trips, because we're a French-based company, we went to amazing places. They would take 40 of the top sales professionals in the company with our spouses, and we had a chance to go to awesome places like Istanbul, Turkey, Chiang Mai, Thailand, Goa, India, Cape Town, South Africa, and then one year they came to Miami, Florida. And I can remember the first time that we went to Istanbul, Turkey, that was my first international travel experience. And Nikki and I can just remember we were sitting in the cab there, and Istanbul is a city of 14 million people. It's on the border of Europe and Asia, tons of culture, just different smells, senses, you're just overwhelmed. And I can remember in the car, and it's just crazy chaos noise. I just felt like I was like in a Jason Bourne movie or Mission Impossible. It was nuts. And then that same day we went and had coffee in this main area, this food market area where there's just a ton of foot traffic, and we just sat there for hours and we people watched, and I was hooked. It just blew me away that how different the world was. And at that point, I had the bug. And so we started planning other trips. Inside those sales incentive trips, we were doing other trips. We went to places like Panama, Croatia, Greece, Brazil, Argentina, and we had this motto, our personal motto of experiences over things. So we were putting all of our money into these amazing experiences instead of buying materialistic things. And we would always come back as we were traveling back from these amazing places. You know, the little maps in the back of the airplane, I would just look at those and just dream of the next location. And every time the 8 or 10 days we'd spend, it just felt like we wanted to do more. So at that point, I'm a huge goal setter, and we started to write down our goals, and we do goals together, and we started saying, okay, what places do we want to go? But then we had long stretch goals of, what if we could do this full time someday? What if we could take time off and have a career gap and really experience the world? And through a lot of hard work and blessings and a lot of luck, we made it happen. So what did we do? For 27 straight months, 35 countries, we had a single backpack apiece, and we traveled with the sun. So all the warm weather. We're both beachy, warm weather people, and you can only fit so much in a bag, especially when you got size 15 shoes. There's only so much you can put in those bags. So that's what we did, and we set out, and we started in South America, spent both summers in Europe, 2.5 months total in India, 3 months in South Africa, 6 weeks in Japan, about 6 months total in Southeast Asia, and then we finished with Australia, Fiji, New Zealand. And we did this from February of 2017 till May of 2019. We just recently returned. And during that time, we had all kinds of different transportation that you can imagine. And I hit my head a lot, I bumped my knees a ton, and we did tuk-tuks, rickshaws, motorcycles, scooters. A car broke down one time, and it was just crazy over and over. And then Nikki even we went to the busiest train in all of India, train station of all India. You can imagine in Kolkata, India. And we got in this little train, and Nikki was the only female of 70 people on this train. And we did amazing things like that. And I took my first Cessna ride over the Nazca lines in Peru. And then we stayed in a ton of different accommodations where my feet hung off almost every bed, and a ton of cold showers, and showers with very little water. We have to use the bucket to put the bucket over you to take a shower. And a lot of awkward bathroom situations. You can see the mirrors in Japan weren't really tall enough for me to do it. And I ate a lot of crazy food in the process as well. Because every time I would come in, they would just love to feed the big guy when they would see me in a room. And I had a rule as we traveled that if we went to an event or somebody's home and they took the time to prepare the food, I would eat whatever they put in front of me. So I ate a lot of crazy food: sea urchins, goat head, pigeon, lamb tail, snails, and I even ate the crickets and cockroaches in Cambodia. So during the process, we had a ton of different living arrangements. Mostly we did shared accommodation where we would stay with somebody, there'd be a host there, and we'd have a spare room. And then we also volunteered several times. In exchange for our services, we would help do things, and they would give us a free place to stay. We spent a month on a Greek island doing that. We spent a month at a surf lodge in South Africa doing that. Once we watched 2 cats in Zurich, Switzerland in exchange for housing, and a dog in Singapore over the recent holidays for 3 weeks. And I love this because it just gave us access to amazing people along the way. And we also stayed with friends. We'd have friends and family back home that would connect us with their friends and family in these other places. And then we had awesome friends visit us along the way during our journey. We'd hook up with them. And then sometimes we'd meet random people, and they would invite us in their homes, and we would take them up on it. It was truly a remarkable time in our lives, and because I'm a good Catholic, I drank a lot of beer with my new friends to celebrate. So we did many bucket list locations: Machu Picchu, Angkor Wat, the Galapagos Islands, Taj Mahal, Venice, Tokyo, New Zealand. And because I'm a huge sports nut, we attended a lot of different events: rugby in Australia, sumo wrestling in Japan, Muay Thai boxing in Bangkok, football in Europe, baseball in Osaka, and then we went to the one-of-a-kind TT motorcycle races. There's this little island between the UK and Ireland called the Isle of Man, and these motorcycles go around the roads there, 33-mile track. They go 180 miles an hour, and it was quite a crazy experience. And I was also taught cricket by these kids in Nalgonda, India, in the streets. So at this point, there's a few questions that you probably go through your mind that gets people lost, and they tend to think about it. One is, how'd you pay for the trip? So we saved money to make it happen, and we budgeted throughout the entire trip, and it's probably cheaper than you might think. And now we're back. We spent all of our money, and now we're back transitioning, making money again. The second question is usually, do you have children? No, we do not have children. We met other travelers along the way that did have that situation, but that was not our situation. 3 is usually, what bad things happen? Everybody wants to know the bad things that happen. Yes, we got sick. Sometimes it was worse than others. There was awkward situations, but none of them turned violent, thank God. And then there's the situations that, depending upon how you look at it, could have been horrible or funny. Like when we volunteered in South Africa at that surf lodge, the area that we were living at with our bed in our kitchen, the local baboons came in and wanted our food and wanted to hang out. And a couple times they left big piles of stuff that I had to clean up. So that was different. And then people asked, you really spent 27 months with Nikki and each other. And I'm proud to say that through that time together, our relationship even got stronger. So from a spiritual aspect, as a good Catholic, I downloaded the readings in English before we left on my Kindle app. And because I knew that we'd go to all these different churches, and they sometimes wouldn't speak our language. And we went to hundreds of churches, attended a mass many, many times. And it was, even though they weren't speaking the language, you still get a great vibe in that scenario, just being around the people, even though it's in a different tongue. It was just a great experience that way. And then we did several events as well that really stuck out, that were memorable to us. The first is Ayacucho, Peru. We were there for Semana Santa, which is Holy Week. And we were there for the whole week. It starts on Holy Tuesday and goes through Easter, and it is amazing. It's in the hills of Peru. It's one of the best celebrations of all of South America, and we knew that going in, that it was going to be an awesome time. And it was just fantastic. People from all over South America go there, and they do, there's all kinds of religious reenactments, dancing in the streets, amazing food. There's even running of the bulls on Saturday around the main square. And it was, we had a chance to work with a local orphanage as well. And on Easter Sunday, the Mass starts at 5. We got there about 4 o'clock to get a seat inside the cathedral. And they have this huge pyramid of over 2,000 candles with the Jesus on top. And at the base there was over 100 people that were inside this huge thing. And it starts out inside the cathedral, and the people are underneath there throughout the entire Mass. You could kind of hear them kind of wrestling around, because I could not imagine how sweaty they were. And then around 5 o'clock it goes out. They had to maneuver it outside to the main courtyard, and then they go around this square for 2 hours as all the bells go off and fireworks go off over top. It was a truly an amazing experience, and it really will last with us forever. And then we went to Our Lady of Fatima in Fatima, Portugal. And if you're not familiar with this story, in 1917, these 3 shepherd children saw the visions of Mary over several months. And this was important to us because as a child, Nikki watched this reenactment of the movie. There's a movie in the 1950s that reenacts this whole thing. And Nikki fell in love with this as a child, and she would go out into her yard in Chicago and pray up into the sky, as her mom said it. For us to go there and see it and walk the grounds and see where the children lived was a fantastic experience. And then St. Anthony's Festival in Lisbon, Portugal. St. Anthony's my favorite saint, and Lisbon is a city we fell in love with. We went there, we're supposed to be there for 3 days. We stayed for 2.5 weeks. And this city, it's just so romantic, and it's hilly, and it's kind of a small city that's on the water. And that festival, it lasts about 2-3 days. They do all kinds of things to celebrate St. Anthony and his life. And there's dancing in the streets, all kinds of great foods. They partied till late in the night. And we made so many great relationships. We actually went there 2 straight years, in 17 and 18, and we're probably gonna go back next year. But because it's just, the community there is just amazing. It's so much fun. We highly recommend getting to Lisbon, Portugal, but if you can get there in early June, it's June 12th is when they celebrate. We highly recommend that. And then there was St. Thomas the Molitor. So as the story goes, after Jesus' death, a lot of the disciples went west, where St. Thomas went east to India. And as he was down there in about 50 AD, he was getting chased by some of the locals into the hills of Molitor in Kerala in the southern part of India. And as he went up there, he was praying upon this hill that looks over Kerala. His feet, if you can see, his feet are in the ground and still there. And so as Nikki and I were making this trek it's through the woods, a lot of roots, a lot of dirt. It's not easy. It's probably at least 5 football fields long. And even the driver that took us there said he never sees any Americans do this. And so as we're going up there, it starts to rain and pour on us. And Nikki and I kind of look at each other like, we want to keep doing this, or what are we going to do? And absolutely wanted to do it. So we kept going up. And some people during the pilgrimages during Easter, they carry huge crosses. So you see a bunch of crosses along the way that are laying there. And as we got to the top, there was the loudest thunder of my life. It kind of shook my soul. And I felt like God was applauding our efforts for doing this. And so then we had to come back. We visited all this, the beautiful cross that's there. And then as we come back down, the next day we already had planned that we're going to visit Don Bosco's orphanage. So I had to ask the driver, hey, can you pull over so I can change my clothes? So I had this lungi. It's called a lungi. It's a male dress. All my Indian buddies love the fact that I put this on. And then that day we were buying some toiletries and school materials for the kids. But then we also bought sporting equipment, soccer balls, basketballs, cricket gear. And then when we got to we had a driver that day. We packed all the stuff in the trunk in the back seat. And as we pulled up to the orphanage, I had arranged to meet with the priest, and it was kind of just silent at the orphanage. But they had this awesome soccer field and these basketball courts on concrete. And as the priest came out and he was talking to me, I said, Father, do you mind if I throw some of the sporting equipment out there so the kids can see it? And as I'm throwing out all these balls, the kids, there's 55 teenage kids that live at the orphanage, boys, all boys, and they come flying out of the doors. And they played for hours until the rain started coming on the soccer fields and the basketball courts. And I had a chance to interact with them, teach them some lessons, and just kind of just hang out when I played with them. But the craziest part was not a single child had shoes. They were doing all this barefoot. And how they were like running on the court barefoot was unbelievable to me. And but as Nikki and I, we had a chance to like kind of reflect on a talk and as we were going home, is the kids never felt like they were without. It was just like their life, but they're so happy. And that really hit us in a strong way. And then we had a chance to experience some of the heartbreak around the world with our faith as well, to talk to the people in Tallinn, Estonia, how the Crusades affected them for generations. And then we actually had a chance to break bread in Peru and talk with a woman, how and she gave us some of the history with the Incas and how the Spaniards came, bringing Catholicism with them, and really some of the indigenous folks all around the world. I'm not a big history guy, so I had a chance to learn a lot about how the indigenous people were treated around the world, and a lot of it's very heartbreaking. And then not that it's a Christian outcome, but we had a chance to visit Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland. And it was really sad to see the piles of shoes from the people that were left behind and the living conditions there. And it's something that if you're in Eastern Europe and you have a chance to visit it, it really it'll move you in a way just to understand the evil that's out there. And it's really sad, but it's something I think we all should understand. And then we had a chance to understand other faiths around the world as well. Buddhism, the Buddhist people, and the kindness and the warmness and the welcoming demeanor as we went through Asia. We were in the countryside of Vietnam looking at this beautiful Buddhist temple during the Chinese New Year. And the head monk came out and invited us in for dinner because he wanted to tell us more about him and understand more about us and tell us about his faith. And all the Buddhist people that we met were that kind. And then we celebrated 3 weddings in India, Nikki and I. And to be around those weddings and just the celebration that's involved with that, and the people, how they treat family, and just because these celebrations are 5 to 6 days long, and there's tons of food and just how the family interacts. And I was even called up one time. I had to do this choreographed dance in front of 200 people as they partied, and I had to play that out, and they loved to see me do that. And it was just how they work in their family, and the multi-generational living there is something that really affected me. It was awesome to see. And then the Shinto people of Japan, just their calmness and the stillness and how they go about life. Spending 6 weeks in Japan really moved me. Just the peacefulness and the respect they have for each other. And then we spent time in northern India as well, near the Pakistani border, where Sikhism is the main religion there. We had a chance to visit the Golden Temple. It's this gorgeous temple. And as Nikki and I were getting ready to go in, the head of the temple came in and greeted us and asked us in to take coffee and enjoy our time there. And it was great because he just wanted to tell us more about his faith. And as we had a chance to go around the monument, watch people bathe, and then walk through the actual Golden Temple was very moving. And then we went to other Christian faiths as well, because Catholic Church weren't always available, or we wanted to see another option. So we had a chance to visit other faiths in Europe, Southeast Asia, and South Africa. But one church in particular out of George, South Africa, it was very inviting, a great community there. And I formed a relationship with one of the gentlemen that has a great sports academy there that takes children out of the townships. The townships are kind of like our ghettos in America. They would take the kids out of the townships and give them opportunities in sports, particularly soccer and netball, and teach them education, leadership skills, and give them opportunities. And they did it in a way that they weren't pushing Christianity on these kids, but just showing them how Christians live through kindness and unconditional love. And I just love that, because a lot of these kids would go, then they would take these kids and have them go back into their communities and then be leaders within those communities, understanding this. And I had a chance, the gentleman that was running the organization said, "Matt, I've been asked to give a sermon in the township. Do you want to come with me?" And I said, "Absolutely, I want to come with you." So we go into these townships, and there's tens of thousands of people there, and none of them look like me or him. And as we're there, we pull into this little house that has been turned into a church for that evening. And there's people falling out the walls and inside the church. And I found out later that they've only been learning about Jesus for about 4 months. And as I walk in, they're all speaking in tongues. So I was kind of taken aback, but I got used to it and got comfortable with it. And then as they began the pastor spoke a little bit, and then my buddy spoke, and then he asked me to speak at the end. But as we're speaking, they're translating in the tribal local tongue there, which was Casa, which is popping and clicking. So it was a lot of, so to hear what I'm saying translating with pops and clicks was unbelievable. And so it was experiences like that as we traveled that really will be with us forever. And we're so blessed to be able to live that out. I'm a huge fan of the growth mindset as described by Carol Dweck in her book, Mindset. It's essentially the idea that we can all continue to grow and learn and get new skills as we go through life. And that was my hope as Nikki and I started on this path, that those things would happen. And I know I was right, because we had people looked at what we were doing as a risk in some ways. We were both at the peaks of our careers. We loved our relationships here, our networks, spending time with our nieces and nephews and our relationships here. But we had a deep faith in ourselves and each other and in God to know that there was something out there that was pulling us, and we really wanted to do it. And we knew the challenges of the journey would give us a unique opportunity to learn new skills and develop ourselves in a different way. So during that process, we started a travel blog where we gave advice and told our stories. And then about a year in, we started a podcast, which is brand new for us. We figured out how to do that, and we told our stories audibly. And then we both self-published books. Nikki wrote about her memoirs and her experience of the journey, and I had a photography book on photographs of police officers I took around the world. It was actually featured on Fox News last month. And we also had the World Barbershop Adventures, which showcases me in barber chairs around the world, where Nikki was amazing in taping it along the way, and it's actually now on Amazon Prime. But we gained so much and learned so much about ourselves in this journey. And we saw the beauty of the people around the world. But it also helped us as we transitioned back to understand how lucky we are to live in this country and all the blessings that come our way. And then a lot of people thought that there was no way we'd come back to Indianapolis. The people that know us, like, you're going to move to New York or Chicago or somewhere where there's a lot of culture. And we bragged. I would brag constantly about Indianapolis as we journeyed. First you start, hey, we're from Chicago, and if they understood that, and we're like, okay, we're actually from Indianapolis, it's about 3 hours south. And then I'd say the race cars, and their eyes would light up, and they knew where I was talking about. But we loved Indianapolis, and we knew that there was a lot of opportunity here for culture. Just a few weeks ago, I actually went to a Vietnamese mass at St. Joseph by the airport. I'm not sure if you're familiar, we got a strong Vietnamese community on the west side. And for me to go there, I took my Kindle app just like I did when I traveled, and to hear the Vietnamese language spoken and to be around that community and make friendships as I was leaving. There's opportunities in Indianapolis to expand yourselves and get into different cultures. And you'd be surprised what you could learn if you do reach out and talk with those people, and how much, and the profound effect that it can have on you as well. Thank you.